Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
You sound beautiful.
Oh, I'm glad I sound beautiful, and so as do you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
it looks amazing.
Thank you very much. I finally thought it was time to get a little bit more professional now that our podcast is getting a little bit more legitimate profesh.
It's getting a little bit of eyes.
Yes. And happy winter.
Yeah, happy official, not the shortest day of the year, because yesterday was,
Oh, yeah.
that is exciting because you know what that means, folks.
Days are getting longer.
That's amazing.
So amazing.
To introduce our guests quickly just before they hop on.
Yes. Yes.
And then what else I wanted to say is please, for your humble podcast host, so we can continue doing what we're doing because we're loving it and we're loving giving you this content and sharing all this with you, all this juicy stuff, juicy topics. Share this with your friends, with your family, with people that you think might be interested. Subscribe. I know this is like the same shit that everybody spiels, but it has to be done because we really love doing what we're doing, but we want it to, we want it to be seen by people that hopefully will help. And so, do the normal shit.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, follow us on Instagram, like us on Spotify, download our episodes so we can build more algorithms. Like, there's a reason why we spam the shit out of people in terms of our podcast, because this is actually how our podcasts grow. And we love your support, and we are on a great momentum, and we want to keep going. So thank you for all the support you have provided us. But Rachel and I are really appreciative to see the continued support, both from our guests and our viewers.
Yes. Well said.
Thank you. So tell us about our guest, Rachel. I am ready to be, I'm happy already. I love being happy. And what is wrong with my eyes? My right eye seems okay. My left eye has more space underneath it. I look like I'm crazy-eyed. What the hell is going on with my eyes?
Maybe one eye isn't quite awake yet if you just rolled out of bed.
I did at 8:40. Anyways,
Well, there you go. Oh my goodness. And then what time is it right now, Hero?
8:56.
8:56, 15, 16 minutes ago. Oh, you're so gorgeous. You're so gorgeous. Look at how cute you are. Okay.
Stop.
Now. Our guest on the podcast is Mr. Jonas Altman. And Mr. Altman actually, I don't know how to say Mr. Altman. Jonas actually reached out to us, which is very flattering and amazing. And I'm kind of giggling because the first thing he said was, I'm also an MOT. And I'm like, what is it, Hero? What's an MOT? What is this MOT? What is this? And so I looked it up. Actually, it took me like 2 Google searches, believe it or not, but it actually means member of tribe. And I actually didn't know that. So I'm sorry. Like, I guess I am that ishy of a Jew, but it's
Yeah, same. I am too.
Jewish. So, and Hero didn't know what that meant. So thank you for educating us, Jonas. And yeah, so Jonas is a speaker, writer, entrepreneur. He has written things that I've actually appeared in The Guardian, the Sunday Times, which is quite impressive.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, and he's got a book, I believe that's coming out or that is out right now, called Shapers.
Yes.
Yeah. And so from my understanding is he has spent many years assisting businesses going in and creating a better work environment, coming in. I think he probably has a model that he goes by, and he goes in and I guess just, I don't, you know what, and this is what I want to talk to him about. So he helps them flourish and he helps them grow, and he probably goes in to shift things in a work environment that might need some shifting.
Okay.
So that's from my understanding, that is what he does. And it just sounds really interesting because he's like very comfortable on the stage, it sounds like, and he's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of things to say. I'm super curious to know how his business is doing with the pandemic going on, because what I'm seeing from looking at his website and stuff is he's very used to being in front of people.
Right.
and going into their work environments and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. I believe he's probably a motivational speaker as well.
Exactly. And also, God, he is gorgeous. Because again, Rachel was saying, oh, check out this guy, Jonas. I'm like, oh, okay, sure. And then I look, I'm like, oh, hello. And then you kind of see what they're doing. And I'm actually really inspired by the stuff that he is doing that Rachel's talking about. And then seeing, it's all about happiness. He's all about inspiring people, making a difference in people's lives. And I also think did you say that he's also connected to the UBC school, Sauder School of Business as well?
Yes, he is. That's another thing. Yes, he's an adjunct professor, entrepreneurship and innovation group.
So that's huge. And in a time like right now, in the last I would say, any time, but especially the last like 3 years, especially last year, entrepreneurship is so important when it comes to, look at our podcast. That's all entrepreneurial. Everything is coming from our blood, sweat, tears, and there's no one helping us. It's just us doing our thing and then hopefully and seeing the ripple effect of it, right?
Exactly.
Perfect example of pioneer.
And for those that don't know, the Sauder School of Business is actually, it's affiliated with UBC, so University of British Columbia. So just for those that don't know, so it's our big university in BC, but also pretty well known, not just in Canada, but I'm pretty sure in North America, if not further than that. So yeah.
I definitely agree.
I'm unzipping my shirt so I can clean my glasses.
Well, I just love how I was like, wow. I'm like, wow, are you really that warm right now?
No.
Like, seriously, you're further up in Vernon. Like, it's a lot colder up in Vernon, and I'm freezing my tits off right here.
It's not a lot colder. Did you guys get snow actually?
We did, but not in downtown, though. I didn't see a drop of it.
Okay.
But everywhere else, like in Burnaby, North Van, the further out from there, probably anything outside of downtown got some form of snow.
Yes. Yeah. And we got like, where I am, which is like closer to downtown Vernon. So yes, we're a bit higher than you are, but maybe we got, I don't know, half a foot of snow.
That's not bad.
Today it's not bad, but now it's gorgeous out. It's beautiful blue sky.
Oh my God, it's so gorgeous out. And that's the thing I always forget. It's like, oh, it's so clear, it's sunny, but it's also a lot colder, right? So it's kind of like that's the trade-off. But when it's warmer, it's also tends to be more gray and tends to be more wet. So,
and you don't like hot weather.
I don't at all.
You're really like that in between. I'm guessing like you love the fall.
Yes, and spring. I'm a fall and spring person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an in-betweener. It's like I'm not much of a morning person. I'd rather be a night person, but I'm kind of more of a midday person. And people are like, that doesn't exist. I'm like, bitch, yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. It does.
My eyes are so twitching.
Are they twitching or they're just okay.
No, they're just like slanted. Oh, that might have woken them up actually. They look no. Okay, whatever. But I love it that we were saying before though, because it's so cold. I was saying that, like this is kind of like our unintentional plea for me to find a husband for people that are watching through outreach, right? And so I was saying to Rachel, like, I'm a total meat locker. So for any men that are furnaces that want to hook up with a meat locker and just hold me tight, please do. And no, that's not a sexual innuendo. For once, that's not a sexual innuendo. That's an intimate innuendo.
I thought it was. Only because I hear the word meat and I'm like, oh, meat? What?
Oh, sure.
There's gotta be a penis or schmeckle or whatever. But
it's so funny though, because out of everything that I can't or don't eat, including meat and nuts, I'm like, I'm fine with human grade nuts and human grade meat. So I'm like, what the hell is up? That's just so bizarre.
Really funny. Oh my god.
It's like the only exceptions are if they're human grade. They do not translate to an allergic reaction.
That's good. Unless that human had just rubbed nuts all over his nuts.
Crunchy or smooth?
Yeah. Yes. Or peanut butter. Oh, yeah. No. What am I saying? Oh my god. Peanut. And okay. I was supposed to go on a different tangent, but I'm going to stop right there. But speaking of, because actually just before here when I hopped on, we had slight technical difficulties. And then I was about to say to you that I actually think it ends up being the most comedic and the most it's very interesting, I guess, is the best way to put it, to see all these celebrities and people of higher status, quote unquote, that are doing these IG lives now, these Instagram lives or Facebook lives, and they're used to having everyone else do the technical stuff for them, right?
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Now they're hopping on these, and it's so humbling, actually.
Yes.
And I really adore it. So I won't say whom I watched last night, but I did watch an Instagram live last night. And there were some technical difficulties, but he just rolled with it. And I love it because I guess he's also really, really good at improvising, though. So if you're an actor and you're good at improvising, and you can kind of just like roll the punches. But there were a few times where it just completely shut off. And everybody, everyone in the comments is like, your video paused again. It paused. Like, I can't see you. And he's like, some people are like, just be fucking patient. He'll come back on. Like,
yes.
And then he did, and it was fine. But it's fascinating, everybody doing this now, right?
Well, yeah, and I got to think of it even with teaching yoga, right? Instagram lost its lost its shit when everyone was going live. So
yeah, exactly.
Hello, there he is. How's it going?
So sorry, I was on the wrong Zoom link. I was hanging out.
Oh my God, no problem at all. It gave us the perfect time to introduce you and to warm you up the way you're meant to be warmed up.
Oh my God. All right. This is a big decision. I poured a cup of coffee, but I haven't tasted it yet in a no-name mug. So it's either going to be a day maker as the sun comes out, or I'll spill it on the computer. It's going to end our episode, and it's all going to be over. So,
but is it spiked?
Exciting.
It's spiked with with Avalon chocolate milk.
Oh my God, yes. Man,
oh, it's amazing.
Oh my God.
This is like the best cup of coffee I've ever made in my life.
I'm going to grab some of my tap water that I have in my stream.
And I'm going to also, my dad said, don't do this when you're on podcasts. Switch to another mug so that you're confusing. And then I'll switch to the orange. Anyway, I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for inviting us. You reached out to us and we were just so humbled.
So what is an MOT?
Member of the tribe.
I don't really use that. I've never used that. But
Funny.
There's like a website, and it's like, did you know Scarlett Johansson's an MOT? And you're like, no. And like, should I feel better about myself? Do you know Pee Wee Herman's an MOT? Or like,
Okay, so, oh my God, we could go on and on about this. Jonas, we are recording now, so I just want
to... Oh, yeah. I listened to one of your podcasts, so I assumed when I came in, I was on. So
amazing.
I was like...
That's amazing. Which one did you listen to?
The latest one on generational trauma.
Nice.
Bridget?
Jeannie, and we had Rachel Yehuda, and then also we had Deidre Sirianni.
Deirdre. I listened to Deirdre.
Oh, fantastic. That's so good of you to actually take the time out of your life to listen to us.
Yeah,
I'm very happy, humble.
Very cool stuff.
Awesome. Right on. Yay.
So I did a little introduction, and it's funny because you said MOT, because before you hopped on, we were just having that discussion, and I was saying, Jonas has already enlightened me and has already given me a new bit of information that I didn't. He just educated me because I had no idea what that was. Because when you said that, I went to hear. I was like, what is a mot? What's mot?
Right. I started laughing live. I don't laugh. I laugh aloud, but I was laughing on Instagram, and I don't have a lot of DMs. And I was like, your podcast is called Juicy, and I was like, you should know this. And I was like, but then I was like, I wasn't passing judgment. I was like, I'm so happy to be able to share the joy.
No,
I got other Yiddish words I can teach you if you want to learn some Yiddish.
Oh my God, please do. We know some basic ones from our ancestry, but I'd be curious to get a lesson in Yiddish too. Yeah,
I used to buy my friends like Yiddish magnets for the fridge, and we'd make up like oy vez mir, gefilte fish, and they'd be like, is that really a thing? I'm like, no, but it sounds Yiddish.
I love it. Oh my God.
Oh, gefilte fish, something I never learned to love until I was an adult.
No. Why do people eat that?
I will never eat it.
You should either go to solitary confinement or gefilte fish forever.
I would never eat something that looks like a tumor. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I went there. Of course I went there.
That's what I like about you guys. There's really, the only place you won't go, it seems, is if it becomes awkward. And because you guys don't have that gene, somehow you were deficient when you were born, that nothing is awkward. So then it doesn't have to be awkward. right?
Oh, totally.
And I think that's a really beautiful quality.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. No,
That's very kind of you.
I'm very awkward. I used to be very awkward. I'm trying to be less awkward.
So did I. Oh my God, I'm the queen of awkward.
yeah. No, I think that's why Hero and I get along so well too, because we both, what did you say, Hero, about us? We're kind of like the misfit toys that kind of found our tribe, I'll say tribe again, but we kind of were like that a little bit growing up. And, and I feel like that's kind of what's attracted people to us. Although, and I was saying to Hero, and I actually posted something about this recently, about how the amount of followers you have doesn't not necessarily measure your success, and it doesn't have to these days. I mean, I know people think it does, and we could open up the topic of conversation there, maybe. But it's really, if people can see that genuine, I hate to use the word authenticity because I feel like it's kind of overused, but that's really what it is. If they can see that and they can see your vulnerability, they can see how humble you are, then it doesn't really matter as long as they can see that. But without further ado, we did kind of introduce you prior to, but I do want to hear more from you, Jonas, to talk about yourself, just give yourself a little spiel, but another Yiddish word, a spiel.
Yeah.
So from my understanding is the condensed version is that you help with marketing, you help with businesses. This is what you have done, or entrepreneurs, with, I guess, shifting or finding their focus, or helping people kind of realign themselves to have a better work environment. Or I kind of introduced you a little bit more in that sense too, but you also work at the UBC Sauder School of Business as well. You're a writer. You are I want to say a motivational speaker, but I don't know if motivational is the right thing to put in there, but sure, why not?
Sure.
And you're Jewish.
And I'm Jewish.
Yeah.
And I'm a human, and I'm a coffee drinker, and I'm a yoga practitioner, and a surfer, and I got my first cavity in my 40s.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
My fridge has a lot of cheese in it. And I have a brother, and I have a nephew. Anyway, yes, I'm a curious human. But I will give you a story before we go into that, which is maybe a way to bring the authenticity and the sizzle that can be Instagram or social media, and the steak, which could be being real and Dave Chappelle straight talk. Mm-hmm. So I had a client who had a magazine, and they put Taylor Swift on the cover. And it was like, woo, Taylor Swift! I was like, okay, like, her music sucks, but that's my opinion. Obviously it doesn't if she's like the biggest pop star at the time. Mm-hmm. And on one of the pictures, I think it was the cover, or maybe it was inside the magazine, they went no eyeliner. Sans eyeliner. Like, so it was just her natural eyes. And somehow Yahoo, whoever goes to Yahoo, but Yahoo Finance or Yahoo's homepage said, Taylor Swift forgoes makeup for the cover of Wonderland. Kind of like Alicia Keys decided to start wearing makeup like 10 years before that. Yes. And then berserk, like the magazine website like broke down. There was like 80,000 hits within the first couple of minutes of that article. And because I was helping them, I was like, we got to do something about this. We need to like continue packaging up this turd and distributing it around the world. Yeah. And that was my first introduction to that world, which is short-lived memes and moments that inflate your ego. And then you're like, I need more. Yeah. So anyway, so when it comes to me, I understand there's a dance between like having like, in effect, my mom, the only person reading my newsletter versus hundreds or thousands of people, but having those people really get benefit and really enjoy it. Exactly. So, I basically try to make work suck less and make it better for individuals, teams, and companies. And it's taken me a long time to figure out that, because I worked in a lot of companies or organizations where I was like, something's wrong. And then I was like, is it them or is it me? And I was like, it's both. I don't want to conform to who they want me to be, and their environment or their culture or their climate isn't actually understanding the human condition. Mm-hmm. So I show up as like the teacher at UBC. I show up as the coach, and then the writer is sort of my way to think. And those all like you'll find that business model very popular with like thinkers who are trying to like make a living, but each of those feeds into each other in a sort of natural way.
Yeah. And
So
don't you,
well said.
I feel like that's so well said. Yes. I feel like now more than, well, I want to talk to you about what the heck, I was going to swear, but we do swear in this podcast.
I also was told not to say fuck many times because I've been bleeped out sometimes. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh. And then it was like, beep, beep, beep. Sounds like Eddie Murphy. I'm
Like
like,
you fucking swear as much as you fucking want.
Exactly. Okay.
and I was like, was that going to be like 2020, the year of COVID and fuck? And like everyone said it and it will date you. Like the scratching of the turntable in songs. Like, who does that?
No kidding.
I just got into records and stuff like that. So anyway.
Hey, here we go.
Oh.
Oh my god, look at that gorgeous
library. We can talk about that later. Go ahead. Ray, I don't want to cut you off, so keep going.
I think that we have a lot. Yeah, we could talk about a lot of things. And I forgot what I was going to say. That's what it is. So I feel like more and more people though are really realizing and noticing that if their culture in their workplace is optimal and people are happy, that they'll work probably harder for them. And I don't know necessarily if that was a thing like even 5 or 6 years ago or even 10 years ago, you know, when I was working for some bigger corporations. It's like you don't really agree with or like not that, or it's like you have feelings. Okay, well, fuck off. Like, we don't want you here anymore.
Yes, exactly.
You know, you want to. So I feel like, I don't know. Have you seen a trend? Like, are you noticing that you're in demand more than you were, or how have things?
It's a complicated question because there's almost like here's an example. So as cities get bigger, let's not talk about COVID as something that exists right now. Yeah. They get smarter. The transportation systems get more robust. The creative collisions that happen between artists and entrepreneurs and bankers and psychologists are more. There's more patents. So cities, as they scale, get smarter, and businesses, as they scale, get stupider. They get dumber. There's more bureaucracy. There's more middle managers. There's more inefficiency. There's more bullshit.
Sure.
So when you're talking about Lululemon, or you're talking about, say, Thinkific, which is one of the fastest growing companies in BC, Thinkific is in like a stealth mode. It's exciting. It's like talent. The culture is being formed like silly putty. Whereas Lululemon, and we can talk about that, let's say it's like, go to Landmark or die, or you better be really good at your downward dog, or like it's embarrassing to have you come work here. Even if you're talented, then you don't fit into the culture, and that's what you encounter. So now it's like, well, screw you, I'm not going to bring my best self. So you're right, you're spot on. Having a culture that cultivates the whole person. So the fact that I like records, that I can maybe on Fridays put on my own music, or I could feel like I can show parts of myself, which, bringing COVID back in this year, has allowed most companies who had resistance to a more emotional workplace that had your idiosyncrasies and your unique self, not just the UX designer or not just a project manager, now lets you feel like, hey, well, I don't have to put on a mask in a whole show. I do in some ways, but it's a little bit less disorientating to like finish work and be like, okay, I'm going to go back to being me now.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. No, that's here.
No, it's true, because I mean, the way that I look at it is that when I started working, before I started teaching yoga, and I started looking and taking classes with different people, it was interesting when I started teaching yoga and working in yoga studios and seeing how much of a polarity there was to how the person was when they were in front of people teaching. And then the moment that the door is done and they close the door or they go off the mat, it's almost like it's a split personality. And that's when I realized quickly, I don't trust you. I don't want to come back to your practice. I want to see a one-to-one ratio of who you are there and who you are after. And so that's how I've always been. But that made me realize how false the illusion of authenticity can be. And you can't teach people how to be authentic. You either are or you're not.
Even
go ahead.
But I just like, and it boggles my mind, because actually both Hero and I are yoga teachers, and I just can't believe that a teacher, you're preaching this authenticity, and yet you're told by management that you can't be authentic. That's correct. Like, so anyway, I just had to,
Well, I have a really interesting story of, like, there was a yoga teacher who would talk like this. Okay, everybody, what I want you to do is, and the music was like pretty good. I'm very particular. Like if I get some, like there was one yoga teacher who by the end of it, it was almost like James Brown or Marvin Gaye would come on just slowly. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then the class would end. But this person's voice was in a whisper, and it felt like they had a sore throat.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, what is it like for them outside of class? And there was a little bit of a mismatch. I thought in many ways, when I saw her outside of class, which I didn't interact with her so much, I think she was bringing a softer side of herself to be considerate to the yoga students.
Right.
But I was thinking, like, that's a hard act to do, to like put on a new voice for an hour and not fall out of character. Like, I'm like, use your normal voice, but just quieter. But in many ways, I think it was her way of being gentle. But I have encountered people who, whether it's in yoga or other places, think they need to fulfill a role, and what they're doing is they're doing everyone a disservice.
Correct.
By trying to be by posturing is what they would call it in America.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, think about it this way. I mean, so many studios, and we're kind of not really getting off topic, but slightly maybe from the bigger picture what you're talking about. But so many studios hold auditions.
Oh, right.
Think about that, and you think about they call them auditions.
They do.
So, I mean, what does that tell you?
They're already setting your mind up for, like, okay, I got to put on a show. I have to be Hero's best yoga, not best person.
Yeah,
exactly. So
exactly, and that's
yogi, not yoga. Best yogi.
Yeah, that's why I left the industry, and why I had to get referred to work for the city of Burnaby, because that's where I've been able to just be authentically myself for the first time in teaching and being in the industry for 10 years. But it makes you appreciate when you find the right place, you don't take it for granted. And a lot of people, a lot of yoga teachers are so stuck up because they think that they can get whatever the hell they want. And then they build their class schedule, and then they sub all their classes up for 2 months, and they think it's okay when people are striving and dying just to get a class, even at a 9 p.m. time slot. And they're not even being given that opportunity when they could actually be more popular and more received well than that person that just looks the part and maybe is a great teacher, but that it just looks like everyone else and does the same stuff that everyone else does. And what the hell does that promote? Nothing.
I think we've just burned all our yoga bridges in Vancouver.
I really don't care, because it's the truth.
I know.
I'll say it. No other yoga teacher is going to say it. I'm going to say it because I'm fearless, and it's right. So if you're listening to this and you're offended, don't be offended. You created this for yourself, and I'm just shining light on your truth. So, bam. Okay,
boom.
Back to you.
Well, I got a question about Alo Moves. Do you guys know that website?
Oh yeah, I know it.
I do not.
So I'll give you my yoga. Might as well talk about yoga for a bit. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah. I had a very I don't want to use the word traumatic because that's thrown around too much. A disturbing experience in London when I went to one of my first hot yoga studios. So first of all, to say there was carpeted floors, so that should be a red flag.
Yeah, that's a Bikram style.
Yeah, and then the individual. I usually am not that interested in who's around me, but if I open my eyes, it was somewhat offensive in terms of sweat and hair and like bodies. Just it was like And I was like, okay, this is fine. And it was winter. I remember it was really cold. So it was just nice to be warm. And I went 2 or 3 times. I think I had one of those passes. And I was like, yeah, I don't think hot yoga is for me.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Vancouver many years later. And I found, I guess it would be Modo, which has now become Moksha, or maybe it's the other way around.
Other way around, yeah.
Other way around.
Yeah.
And Jane, who I'll plug, who teaches in Alma, had great soundtrack, really good flow, like super geek, no posturing. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, you should try the 75-minute one. or whatever, the 90-minute power one. And I went to that one, and I came out, I was like I had pushed myself to the limit, and I realized that what I was wanting was to turn my mind off, stop thinking. And hot yoga can help you do that and all that. Anyway, fast forward, I joined the one in East Van, and that one's even more sort of, it's got a different vibe, and it kind of became a little bit like a tribe or a family in some ways, not necessarily social, but I just always felt like they knew my name. I knew where I was going to go. And then COVID hit, and it was like, end of story. And I said, well, I'll support you. I'm not going to pay you the monthly membership to not do yoga, but I'll do some online.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I've talked to are like, well, the whole reason why I went into a studio and spent $15 to $20 to sweat collectively was for the collective.
Yes.
Which is no longer there when I go on to a Zoom meeting and I'm doing sort of one-to-one. So my friend told me about Alo Moves, and I went on there, and I felt like I was on Netflix for yoga. I was like, do I want Kundalini, Yin, Vinyasa? Then how long do I have? Do I want female, male, and what's their music like? And now I have the paradox of choice, which something was like, I want those decisions made for me. Anyway, I found a woman who's now she was in Seattle, now she's in LA, I think. And she's got no, like, she probably has a game, like a style, but she does weekly yoga class, 30 minutes as like a Wednesday depacket, Friday unwind. And so I've kind of found that, but the essence of it and the experience is so much less impactful or sticky for me. Yeah. It's kind of like, I kind of look forward to it almost like it's like breaking up the day. So like at 6, 7 before cooking, I'm like, I got 30 minutes and I slide it in. So in some ways I would totally choose going back to the collective. And I know people were going to yoga studios up until recently, but I'm also aware that the industry's changing. And now maybe there's more opportunity to say like, I've got my 20 or 30 people that are going to come to any class I do. I don't need your fancy pants. Right. So to Hero's point of saying like, like same as a podcast, I could have 20,000 or I could have 2,000, but I want people who are going to listen all the way through and get something from it, as opposed to like dip into a Tim Ferriss episode and never come back.
Correct.
Not that I'm slagging Tim Ferriss. I listen to some of his shows, but I don't listen to all of them. It's too much.
Me too. And like Joe Rogan and all that stuff, I listen to them too.
So that's my rant, and I just realized I turned my heat on, so I'm going to get naked and take my shirt off.
Not a problem. Not a problem for me.
Downward dog.
Yeah, not a problem for me.
Hot yoga.
Yeah, exactly.
Own space.
But I think that's the same thing with teaching and education. So I'm doing all of my teaching on Zoom. So I need to now become part comedian, part storyteller, part educator, which you always had to be, but you were in the room, so you could be like, okay, do that, and then you could just sort of bugger off. There's now 30 Zoom windows waiting, and if the video's not on, it counts as not attended. You haven't attended if the video isn't on. And part of that reason is everyone is multitasking. Like, I can be on Instagram right now talking to you guys, like doing a podcast. Like that'd be kind of silly. But certainly if I was trying to tell you about like fiscal deficits and high frequency trading, you'd just be like,
yeah.
Right.
We know, because prior to an episode that we did not that long ago with a good friend of mine, I could see his eyes. He was down shopping. He was Black Friday shopping. And
on the podcast, is this podcast go audio or video or both?
Both.
Oh, I shouldn't pick my nose. Okay, good to know.
Anyway, no, I understand that. So what do you think have been the implications of the pandemic with what you do? I mean, like what you do is so like it can be so tactile and so like, because you're used to being face to face with people, and that's what you did for so long, and that's your shtick, right? Yeah. So how do you feel that? I mean, it's probably a question that you've probably answered a lot over these past few months, but what has changed, or how do you feel? Yeah,
I think, a lot of people are grieving. That photo in the background is one of my close friends' girlfriends at Despacio, which is a a traveling rave of the collaboration between too many DJs and the LCD sound system. And they take like disco songs and they slow them down so they're like 100 beats per minute, and you just sort of are like this. And I've been to them in London, New York, Barcelona, like all over, and they're always a tribe that are there for the music. There's no funny stuff. Sometimes people are on psychedelics, but generally it's for the music. So that's an experience that people have been mourning or grieving, very much like yoga. Well, the same thing with workshop culture and going into a company and being like, hooray, where's my sticky notes? I usually have sticky notes, but yeah. Hey, we're gonna use these sticky notes and we're gonna map out what it looks like to have local rules that you guys as a team within a bunch of teams are gonna how you're gonna sail your ship. So you're gonna be more open than secretive. You're gonna be more network than hierarchical, and you're gonna figure out what's important to you guys. So I would do that a lot, and then they'd be like, I think we need some coaching or some help to integrate this. So that was like the appetizer, the kickoff, and then the coaching and the consulting was the sort of the reflection and integration. Well, now people don't have time. They're not going to the office, and they don't necessarily have the highest priority on what is developing your staff. They're either in survival mode, like we need to stay in business. Yeah. So we're thinking of like letting people go, or we're in pivot mode where we're figuring out, okay, our business model was 30% online and 70% real life. We got to flip that, and we got to figure out how to do that. So instead of me changing how I try to help companies, I changed how I work and I moved it all online. So I have a program to do peer coaching. I do one-to-one coaching a lot with a Vancouver-based company called Sphere. Mm-hmm. I teach online, and I basically become Max Headroom, which has dated myself because you guys probably don't remember him. He was the MTV head that would just be there like bobbing like this.
Oh, okay.
And blonde hair, and he was a cartoon. And it was predicting a time when we would just live in these squares. Huh. And I was resistant to that. So I was grieving the old way, thinking, okay, 3 months, 6 months, for sure by 2021, we'll be back on the horse.
Yeah.
Right.
So the answer is I pivoted how I do the same work instead of pivoting what it is I do.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Smart. And I wonder if you've also become more of like, I mean, maybe you were always kind of like a therapist, but even more so now, because you were saying, you know, businesses they're either like, I mean, they're either in this, again, I'm gonna use the word trauma, but like almost a traumatic phase of their business, perhaps, where they're having to either close their doors or having, so there's a lot of probably almost like talking people off the ledge, so to speak, maybe.
My friend calls it the niggle. So there's like an existential itch or opening or inquiry that everyone always has at some point in their life, usually midlife. But they have it in their work life. They have like this like mini crisis. Like they see a friend who all of a sudden is like lit up. They're like, yeah, I just set up my kombucha company, or I just joined this new startup, and they're like, it's like OkCupid on steroids. And you're like, what? You're like, my job sucks. So that's comparison, right? And we know what happens there. You're comparing yourself to other. Mm-hmm. But the people I've been working with, individuals and in companies, are kind of like, is this the best way I can make an impact? Is our company actually doing something that the world needs? Could we change and become more like Patagonia? You know, and so those are all really great inquiries. And so there's a little bit more time for introspection. But wow. Then at the same time is like, we're going out of business. Like we don't have revenue, or we can't pay all of our staff for full time. And that's creating new ways of organizing the system of work, where some people are like, well, I don't need 5 days. I'll do 4 days. That means you save that money. And that might mean someone else who's on part-time can do that. Someone else might do job sharing. Someone else might be like, you know what? I kind of want to be a contractor because I got a couple other clients on the go. What do you guys think about moving me off of this? And so a lot of companies are figuring out that it's not that relevant what the relationship looks like to an individual, as long as they're doing great work and there's good outcomes. And those companies are high trust companies. They're called deliberately developmental because they're like personal incubators for the soul.
Yes.
They're learning organizations where it's like a classroom. The leaders are much more empathetic and emotionally intelligent, and people can bring them their whole selves to work. So these companies are very much high trust environments, and they're rare, but they're becoming like the beacon for like, what are they doing? Like, what the hell? Why are they innovating so fast and so well? And everyone else wants to be the Spotify or the Netflix, but it's not easy.
No.
It's so interesting you're saying that, because that's how I feel about the store that I work at right now. Like everything you just said, I feel that they are a total representation of what you just said. And it is very rare to find that.
Yeah. And so that's what the beauty of seeing work as a practice and as a journey is that if someone tastes what heroes tasted, or I tasted working at a university in England as like, well, I would say prison, but I've never been to prison. I actually have been in prison for like 3 or 4 hours. A different story. It was just for like an experiment, but it was like feeling like, feeling shackled or feeling trapped and feeling like you can't be yourself day in after day and not knowing that there's something else. Yeah. So you're suffering because you're like, well, this is what, that's what I think our parents and our grandparents' generation were like. You don't look for joy at work. Are you crazy? Right. You get your kicks on the golf course, or like, in getting drunk or whatever. So yeah, I think, and that's what I mean. I brought this down. I didn't plug it. I wrote this book.
Yes, we were going to ask you about this.
For 10 years, I was searching for work that would light me up and be joyful. And I found it by finding companies like this and understanding that there are humans who are going to work and are actually making it a place that you want to go to, that you feel compelled to go to. And it is in many ways like your tribe. It's your a sense of belonging. And that is somewhat of a new phenomenon.
That's true, and I have to contribute to that because, again, not to bring it back to yoga, but that was my main thing for 8 or 9 years, and it is still my main thing. But I felt exactly the way you described. I felt like I was in prison, and yet my whole intention was to free people from feeling like they were in prison, and yet I was being imprisoned to be less than who I was. And I'm just thinking, this is so fucked up and completely antithesis of what the whole lineage of this 5,000 plus year old lineage from India is supposed to represent. And when you mix the corporate model of business with something that's not meant to be made into not that it shouldn't be a business, but to turn that into the model that it's become as a business revenue, it completely goes against the idea of contentment and the niyamas, like the ethics of yoga. And how the fuck are you supposed to be ethical if you are not being ethical?
Oh God. Because and I'll just chime in here for a second, because I owned a yoga studio for a short amount of time in North Vancouver, actually.
Best yoga studio ever.
I love North Van. North Van, woohoo!
Well, I grew up in North Van, but moved to Vernon actually a few years ago into the Okanagan because I'm like, fuck this. I cannot survive in this city, doing what I want to do. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But my point is with yoga studios, like I feel for the owners because I've been on that side of things. But I also the yoga studio was like, it was a reaction or my answer to feeling what Hero was feeling with all these corporate studios and not feeling like I could express myself and not having the teachers come in that feel like they could express themselves. So that was, I had a very small, community-minded, humble studio where I was like, I didn't do auditions. I had a coffee date with somebody that I admired, and I was like, let's sit down and and that's how I met Hero, actually. And we just
pointing to himself, right?
Yeah. Which square am I pointing to on the screen?
Yeah. Right. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause you right there. I love what is often a tension between, say, East and West, or the spirit of why Westerners even have to do yoga, because we have to unwind from our fucking, part of my French and Hebrew, balagan, our shit show of lives. And that you created something that keeps the integrity and the essence, yet it can't thrive or survive because the commercial operating system of rent in North Van with, you know, $18 plus $3 for your towel. And you're like, I might as well just do it on my own in the park.
Yeah.
I hear you.
You hit the nail on the head, because that basically, you know, what ended up happening was, and it's actually here when I will do an episode more on what our personal journeys have been with my studio, which I haven't really talked about much, but yeah, I mean, basically just realizing that I had some of the business savviness. I'd been in sales like almost my whole life, but I wanted to partner my passion with my business savviness and have that kind of answer to the stuff that I was seeing. But I couldn't, it's fucking hard. Like I'm not gonna lie, like there was months, and I know my teachers know this, there were months because they I guess they had, not to toot my own horn, but because they admired me and we had a mutual respect and relationship with one another, they were okay with me paying them late, like sometimes a few weeks, because I had no choice. I had no choice. Like it was fucking hard. Like I will never, because of that experience, I will never operate another brick and mortar location, I think, ever. It's very traumatic. But yeah, so I mean, I hate to say that I'm just playing devil's advocate. I hate to say that I kind of understand what these corporations sometimes have to do. I really felt like you shouldn't have to do that, but I couldn't find that formula myself. I couldn't quite find it. So I tried, you know, then I moved up here and like started fresh, and I'm feeling pretty good about what I'm doing now. But anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things you're seeing. There's a great article on Fast Company about co-living that just came out, of the head of hospitality, or the former head of hospitality at Airbnb. And Airbnb's gone public. They're booming. Uber is like taking over the world. Etsy. These are all Shopify, biggest company in Canada.
Yep.
They're allowing for,
I use Shopify every day at my job. Good example.
Right. Yeah. They're all allowing for people to, you could say, this would be like the antagonist, cobble together a precarious life, and become, or feed into the entitled generation that are passionate job quitters. So that would be like, you know, the Atlantic and the New York Times slagging off this. And then the exact same side is these individuals, often under the age of 40 or 35, so Gen Z or Gen Y, are finding work that lights them up, that gives them energy, that makes them feel like they're making an impact in the world, connects them to other like-minded people, allows for a healthier work-life balance or a work-life blend, and have kind of been living like people have been forced to in COVID for what now is decades or 2 decades. So they're called, you know, entrepreneurs, digital nomads, creatives. And in some ways, once you figure out that you don't fit into a specific type of mold, you start to figure out, well, what does it look like to not have to? And you explore modular life, where you have different components.
Yes.
I said that to you at the beginning. I have my component of teaching actually gives credibility potentially to a client, or the fact that I worked with the client might give, but I don't go there saying like, well, if I get your logo, then I could probably go and teach here. Right. It happens because you're showing up, doing the things that you know you're meant to be doing.
Correct. Yeah. So well said. And just being your human self, that's the way I look at it. And again, as Rachel said, you know, in terms of happiness is a reflection of your following. No, it's not, because regardless of what your intentions are, I mean, people, for example, I've tried to be an ambassador for different companies, right? Or an influencer, whatever you want to say. And I understand that they look at your followers, they look at your demographic, they look at your analytics, and sure, they got to be selected. There's tons of people always asking these companies to represent them. I get it. However, if you were to look at the reach you have and the people you affect and how that affects so much actual gain for that business or that brand or whatever it is, that, in my opinion, is what is truly going to make a difference in the relationship you have with those people that might be drawn to those different environments. And I find that's a missed opportunity in a lot of environments that people don't give credit to, because they focus on they don't focus on the, I wouldn't say they focus on the small picture. They focus on what it looks like. Same with like Taylor Swift being on a magazine, right? Like they focus on that, but they don't give the credit to the small, humble folks that actually are the big influencers, and they just are like, nope, not interested. And it's like, really? I mean, like, same with you, right? It's like having a studio and you're just like, I'm making such a big impact here. And yes, those people that are affected is a small bubble, but that's even more important than, let's say, reaching 2,000 registrations in a week and then making that impact on the revenue of the business if those people just don't give a shit.
Well, because those are the people that you end up retaining, and they're loyal.
Yes,
right?
Retention, exactly.
Yeah. So I Jonas, like I wonder what, because we kind of talked about this when we first started talking about followers.
Yes.
About, kind of a very general question, but what are your thoughts on followers on social media? Is it important? Do we because I think Hero and I are in that kind of realm right now where it's like, okay, we have just over 200 followers, which is like in the grand scheme of things, a blip, except we know that every one of those people are actually committed, it seems. So I feel like hopefully there are people that we are retaining, and they're loyal, but
right.
We obviously hope to grow that.
Yeah. I mean, if I actually cared about that, I wouldn't be on this. I don't care about that. So I would say, so one would be, what are vanity metrics? They're vain, and they're there for optics and appearance. What is high engagement is someone liking your photos, commenting, and listening to either all podcasts from beginning to end or a majority of them. And I have a friend who has a social media marketing agency in Berlin, and a lot of the people I've worked with there, and a lot of people he is interested in are people with lower followers but higher engagement. And people call that micro influencers or whatever.
Yes.
So like the companies know that, but to Hero's point, the brand couldn't care less. They just want Kim Kardashian or Kim Kardashian's dog groomer, right?
Yes.
Now, I would say for I'm trying to think about like the different types of things. So for a podcast, because that's relevant to you, I would say like the channels that they seem to be existing on, from posting this onto YouTube to having it live in Spotify to someone listening to it in Stitcher to having a soundbite in Instagram, means you've got an hour of content, and it's up to you to chop it up based on your micro audiences and knowing how they like to consume. And even podcasts that I love, and like whether it's NPR or Brene Brown or On Being, I only listen to it ad hoc. Like, so I'm not really I enjoy podcasts, but I would say I'm listening to SoundCloud for 3 hours a day. So if you wanted me to listen to your podcast, you'd have to get me to like you on SoundCloud and then have you come up in my feed, and I'd be like, dope. So you're catering to where I'm hanging out.
Correct.
So that to me is like the magic of algorithms and personal reference of like, you got to check out the Juicy podcast. You're like, oh yeah, I think I saw that come up on one of my posts because I follow someone who follows them. So short answer is, if it matters to you to get sponsorship and you need to have 20,000, then go buy some Instagram followers, follow everyone I follow, then download an app and unfollow everyone I follow, and do that and get your sponsorship. But every pro was once an amateur. So at one point, you guys are going to have 2,000 followers and be like, remember we were at 200? It was kind of better because then we just did whatever we wanted. Now we feel like we have to like be on and perform.
I know what you mean. I look at that.
And look at Howard Stern. He was doing wild shit and he kept getting fired. Or I think David Letterman as well. Like those, Dave Chappelle. These were the people who were like, screw you, CBS. Yeah. And in many ways, that was like, think about what you're doing there. Like, you're actually saying no to what you were working so hard to get, which is in effect a platform and money. But now the fun has been extracted, and you have to be everything to all people. And then Dave Chappelle has that perfect thing where he's like, I came into this environment and everyone was depending on me to fulfill the role that they thought I should fulfill.
Correct.
And so I just moved to Africa or wherever the hell he went.
Just disappeared. Yeah, that is good advice.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I imagine you guys, I spoke to someone last night. She's like, all I really want to do is podcast. And I was like, oh, I was like, she has a podcast. And I was like, really? And she's like, no, all I really want to do is drink with my girlfriends and talk about Sex in the City or whatever it was. And I was like, okay, that sounds more like what it is you want to do. You want to connect with humans. But she said, ever since I was young, I wanted to have a place on the stage and a story to tell. And I was like, okay, I get that. And she's like in a transitional time of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, maybe now is the time. And this was the brewing for that to be. And also, what do you really in your heart of hearts want to say? Because if you're searching for what to say so that you can get the fame, that might be short-lived.
Right.
Whereas if you actually have, like, let's say you were studying mental health disorders in small American towns for like the last 20 years. And now COVID comes and you're like, oh, wait a second. This is like a thought experiment at scale. And we're seeing, you know, whatever. Now you're able to get on stage and say, like, this is what I learned of 20 years of studying mental health disorders. Mm-hmm. What people are suffering from is loneliness, mostly. Yep. Okay, so here's what, you know, and that to me resonates more. And it has a more of a marathon than a sprint type thing.
Well, yeah. And again, this all comes back to just being your humble human self and not putting on an act, just speaking from your own life experience. It's really that simple, you know, it really is. And that's why when I was thinking about people to contact or even to see that might be interested in coming on to our show, regardless of their following, there are people that, to my impression, are very like-minded to Rachel and myself, whether if they reach out to us or we reach out to them. And here's a perfect example of you reaching out to us. You know, Rachel and I both take a look at the people that inquire to us and we think, did this person match the values and the roots of what we choose to cultivate and continue cultivating? And if they don't, we respectfully choose to move in a different direction. And so the people we bring on the show are a reflection of Rachel and I. We're advocates of each other. So you are now part of that. And I think that's really important to recognize, right? Yeah. Like, it's really important to recognize that. And we are always humbled. Like, I'm dumbstruck that someone like you would want to come on our show, not in a self-deprecating way, but it's very humbling, you know?
Yeah.
It's very humbling.
I mean, when you ask me, what is it like right now? I'm grieving getting into coffee shops and in co-working spaces and offices as a freedom of assembly, freedom of gathering. Yes. And so a friend of mine tells me about this, or someone tells me like that. I'm like, this is like a day maker. So I'm going to be 10 a.m. It's my dad's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday, my dad. Mr. Altman.
Yeah, Mr. Altman's like, what do you do? He's like, well, I'm going to take a nap, and then I'm going to reflect on my nap, and then I'm going to watch NFL football or whatever. But why? I'll put it this way. For a long time, I was worried about what others thought. I am a people pleaser.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. I heard your guys' podcast. So, and you know, in some ways that's a great quality, you know, like in many ways as a facilitator or as a host, you can bridge what could be difficult personalities or what could become very awkward, you know, maybe political views or religious views. So it has its place. But then when it comes to serving your own needs and not feeling resentful and being discerning with your energy, you need to set the boundaries. So you kind of figure that out. And one of those things for me has been like letting go of the preconceived notion that someone is stealing my time or my energy, but actually I'm willingly giving it to them, and possibly too much, without being like, whoa, because they're like the Hoover.
Yes.
And so that's been really interesting for me in terms of like, this has been really fun. It feels like a mutual meeting of minds, as opposed to someone wanting to extract. And you can taste that quite quickly. When someone's coming and they're like, I was just wondering if you ever do SEO audits on your website. And that's like one of the second or third things they say. You all of a sudden, you kind of are like, what are you, is this a sales? Are you selling me something? And that used to work back in the day, because if you would have 1,000 leads and then maybe a few conversions.
Yeah.
So that's how a lot of my business happens, is you start with a give, or you do something, it feels good. And then it's like, what's next? And they're like, I don't know. And like, well, why don't you come to this event? Or so this in many ways, podcasts and Zooms and multifaceted conversations online has become my coping mechanism to feel connected.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. I think there's a few things I want to say. First of all, I'll dial it in. Yeah, I was like, okay, where do I start?
What if you must be Italian? You're an Italian Jew. You're like,
I'm not, but I'm married to an Italian.
Oh, okay. Well,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
we've been together for a while, so and sometimes.
For favela. That's my Italian.
Favela.
Bene.
Okay.
It's very attractive. I wish you were gay. Just putting it out there.
My friend is from Sicily, and he's metrosexual, and he's married with this beautiful kid. And when he goes there, I mean, his dad has a light green, kind of snot-colored 1971-72 convertible Mercedes Benz, and we drive to the beach, and he's wearing the short shorts, and he's asked, I'm like, you are the most on fire straight man I've ever seen.
I love it.
Yes.
That's how all men are encouraged to be.
It reminds me of probably what you look like when you went stand-up paddleboarding down.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much.
You're like,
yes.
Is that
Good
an
reference.
outfit? You're like,
yeah.
That's Instagrammable.
Yeah, it was very Instagrammable. Yeah.
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 Go ahead, Rachel. I didn't mean to hijack you.
That's okay. And actually, it's funny because, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll have to watch.
Dear God.
My mannerisms, because my husband will sometimes, like, he'll be doing something or driving, and he'll literally he'll just go like this. And I'm like, what? Are you having a conversation with yourself in your head? He said,
Wait.
I totally was, but I didn't, like, he doesn't realize he's doing this, but he's talking to himself in his head. Yeah. So it's something that he was born in Vancouver, but it was something he's obviously.
I love that. It's so animated. It's great.
Yeah,
healthy.
that's how I am too. I'm the same way. I'm just like.
Yeah.
So what the hell were you trying to say before I was so rudely interrupted?
I can't believe I could remember it, actually.
I'm very impressed with your memory recall.
Me too. Are you an empath?
Oh God, that was your question?
And the reason is, I feel like, no, because you were talking about, like, you know, having people's energies affect you, and like, I feel like, and I'm definitely, because I've been talking about to my husband about this more recently with our somewhat butting heads sometimes on on discussion about what we think about COVID. We don't have to get into all that kind of stuff, but just, you know, whereas I'm always just like a bleeding heart, just thinking about other people around me, and I just can't help but, like, you know, and then I was like, is that a Jewish trait? Like, are we all something that was passed down from, and again, it goes into like intergenerational trauma. I don't know what your child life was like, Jonas, because we've learned a lot about you. This is the reason why I asked that, is because we've learned a lot about you, I feel like, over the past couple of years, but what brought you into doing what you're doing?
I see. Yeah.
Who is Jonas?
Who is Jonas? I traveled with the whale in the circus for a while. Okay, the answer
There's a lot of questions.
The answer to empath is it's a mild, it's called a string trigger, which I just learned. Instead of a real trigger, it's just like a hairline trigger. And it's because I think people use that as their creative currency to say, I'm an empath, I'm an I'm intuitive, and therefore you should work with me. So that's why it rubs me the wrong way.
I did not mean it that way, but yes.
Yeah, but I do like the word exquisitely sensitive, which one of my friends uses, which I am a highly sensitive human, and there's stuff written about that.
Yeah,
and my brother is as well. So things that don't affect others nearly as much as me affect me terribly, which brings me back to the Big Five personality sort of psychological test, which I was thinking about we might talk about, and now's the opportunity.
Yay.
Is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And I think Israelis and Jews are often neurotic, or can be neurotic, but also open-minded. And Einstein, who was a Jew, was so nuts that he could stick with the problem so much, but have a bit of open-mindedness about, maybe I'm missing something, or maybe someone else has done some research. So when it comes to being empathetic or being an empath or exquisitely sensitive, if you're doing it and you're trying to use that superpower to benefit yourself, to fill up your well, you are now verging on being a sociopath or manipulative. If you're using it in a benevolent way, you are in many ways gifting that to say, I feel what you're feeling. That's you. And I can regulate myself to you in a healthy way, and be there for you, instead of what has happened for me in the past, where all of a sudden I stop being Jonas, I enmesh myself with that person, and I become sad and depressed and all these things. It's not me. That's the dance that I've been doing for the last few years. As a child, I was the good son. I am the good son, which is if I don't do well in school and fulfill the story of the Jewish boy, I will be turned away and I will no longer be loved and will no longer belong, which is why I became a people pleaser. So in many ways, my upbringing, which was amazing. I was born in Vancouver. I grew up in Kerrisdale.
Me too. Where in Kerrisdale did you go?
Right near McGee High School at 49th and Arbutus. There was
my God.
Grocery.
36 on Larch. Oh my God.
36 Larch. There you go. Boom.
Sorry. Continue.
So I it was like Wonder Years. If you guys probably don't know that show, but Wonder Years,
They do. And I'm older than you think. I've had people. Yeah.
You've had great Botox. No wrinkles.
No, it's the ring light. I'm not going to go that close to the.
You've got like the infrared light, and you've got like people like.
I've got some planning. Exactly.
So to answer that question, I love the way you kind of phrase it now. Is like my nature, I believe, is sensitive. Like, and everyone tells me that. My parents told me about that. I think my nurture, the way I grew up, inputs I've had, has almost reinforced that, and it's led me to like the work I do to regulate quickly, or to be able to understand what someone else is going through, but to now in a healthy way stay Jonas. Whereas for a long time it was like, okay, I've been burned, or I've burned myself many times because of that.
Yeah. Good. That's you have a lot in common with, I think, both of us, and I can completely agree with all that you just said. And I think only until recently I've always tried to be someone else, because I thought that was such a negative thing about myself, that being overly sensitive, because I was always told like, don't be sensitive, don't be this, don't be that. So I didn't embrace that part of me. So I was always really down on myself that was a part of me. But now, and again, like not trying to use it to my advantage, like to become a sociopath. That's not what I mean, but just to accept myself.
I'm setting up a sociopath school if you want to join.
Oh my God.
I'm going to do a test, and if you score this high, I'm going to tell you how to become the most evil-based person, like Batman.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's interesting as well, because maybe with the forced need to sync to people digitally, like one of the things you do. So syncing our breath, our pupils, our body language digitally, or even in the real world when that happens, or when we do that makes people feel comfortable. Yeah. And that's what comedians do. It's like the comedian's job is to make you feel at ease in your own skin. Yeah. A yoga instructor's job is to say, you do you. You're not comparing yourself to the downward dog, or the one where you grab your dancer pose. You're not comparing your dancer. It's your best dancer. Because I would always look over and I'd be like, oh, and then I'd fall over. And then as soon as I stop looking, and Moksha, or one of them has mirrors and the other one doesn't have mirrors. And maybe they both have mirrors. It was always like weird. Like you're looking at yourself, and then all of a sudden you kind of peer out and you see all these amazing and somewhat kind of strange dancer poses. But the moment you do that, you're missing the point.
That's why I never had mirrors in my studio. I never wanted them. I thought, anyway, yeah.
Back to yoga, but it's the same thing of like, so you're a sensitive person. Okay. So do you go around and be like, okay, I'm going to be insensitive now, and I'm just going to be like a cold fucking whatever, Cold Stone ice cream?
Bitch.
It's cold. Yeah. Or are you going to use that in a way that is your currency to do great work?
Yeah.
To do podcasts, make me feel that I can tell you that I am a sensitive person, and I'm like okay with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
My t-shirt says highly sensitive. You
Yeah.
can't feel it. It's great.
For us already, and you're like,
I got hot, and then the sun came out, and this is another coping mechanism. I like lighting candles.
Oh my God.
What's this one? This is called Coconut Grove. And so my friend was like, what are your coping mechanisms for COVID? And I was like, I put a filter on everything. I take rose tinted glasses because everything is shit. And I get into nature. So like I go surfing in Tofino. I go hiking in Whistler, which I didn't even know I like doing. I try to curb my technology. So I turn my phone off. I have no phone in the bedroom policy or whatever, all this weird stuff. And then straight talk, which is my new favorite thing, which is like, I wasn't nervous about this podcast because I knew you guys were going to be like, we're going anywhere. Like we'll talk about, ayahuasca. We'll talk about nose picking. We'll talk about what's Hero got in the back there. He's got a Buddha. There's nowhere that you don't want to go because a part of me before was so sensitive. I was like, well, what happens if they ask about this? And then I'm sitting here missing out on the juice because I'm concerned about something that hasn't happened, which is basically needless suffering. That's neuroticism. Suffering twice, once in the head and then when it does happen. But what about when it doesn't even happen? You've suffered unnecessarily.
Yeah.
That is my life.
That's my life. It's a fucking shit show in here. Oh shit. Yeah, like
No, totally. Again, I'm like my brain is Hurricane Hero. Like legitimately, it's a hurricane all the time. Yeah, I'm calm. But do you realize what the fuck's going on in here to be? Hi, how are you?
You know what the words I've been using recently is and I don't want to completely fall into this, but I feel like I am anticipatory anxiety.
That's what I have. That's what I deal with.
Well, you have that on your blog, on your iTunes description. It doesn't say anticipatory. It says anxiety. And I'm like, yeah, these are my people.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm, and I think it's funny because we've only had like maybe one or two guests that have really wanted like a structure and have said before they've emailed and said, what questions are you going to ask me? Like, I want to be prepared. And we've been very like I think Hero actually responded to one of them.
I took care of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and it was very nice. And we, gave them a structure, but then that just kind of, I think, just made them feel more comfortable because then when we started, they knew, okay, well, we have this, but then it didn't end up being that anyway, which is great. I think just because the comfort factor of what they felt after that anticipatory anxiety, they realized they didn't have to be uncomfortable, and it ended up great. But so
I sent you a message on Instagram at like 9:03 and was like, hey guys, like I'm here, but you're not here. And I was like, I'm on the wrong link. But anyway, so obviously that didn't matter to me so much. But I would say with anxiety, one thought was pre-COVID and with a COVID lens, people have felt pressed for time.
Right.
Like in an American kind of busyness is a bragging right, and you wear your badge of honor. And not that I'm great at this, but your relationship to time is the source of anxiety.
Yeah.
So if you have a healthy relationship to time and you see yourself and you see time, say, as fluid or as not as something that you possess or have, but is much more what they call kairos, which is a readiness. It's a Greek term, right? So I'm ready to enter the yoga studio and practice. I don't care if it's 9:45 at Y Yoga in Kits. Screw that. I'm ready to do this podcast at 9:04, like 9-ish.
Yeah.
So use some Yiddish. My favorite one is you crash your parents' car as a teenager and you got to tell them that you crashed a car. Do you tell them like immediately, like at 1:17 a.m. in the morning when you're maybe one or two drinks in you and you're a bit, whatever? Or do you wait till after the Super Bowl with the full belly and your dad's sort of there and you're like, Dad, I kind of got a fender bender last night. He's like, forget about it.
Right.
That's a readiness. And so I'm hoping that for myself and for other people that we start to lose the chronos of everything has to be on the schedule and timing, which is anxiety inducing of like, I'm late, I'm not there, I didn't get enough work done, which is this productivity ninja stuff that we keep seeing.
Yes.
So it only compounds our anxiety when we are like, oh my God, the day got away and I didn't get done what I wanted to get done. I've been grappling with that many times in the last 8 or 9 months.
No kidding. And you were, and also as Rachel was talking about, and I know I've talked about this very openly, like my main forms of anxiety are anticipation, separation, social, and transition. Whenever there's change, whenever there's adaptability, maybe I'm very resilient and I've grown how to be that way from losing a brother and going through the Holocaust from my ancestry, all those things that happened that don't define me, but they're part of how I am today. But those things are part of how my anxiety triggers all the other things. And even yesterday, I had a bit of a PTSD flare up, but instead of it being my entire day, it might have been maybe 5 minutes. And like, okay, I can't focus on them right now. Like, that's done with. It's not relevant. Move on. What's effective, right? So when we talk about finding similarities and feeling members of our own tribe, mental health is what it all comes down to, as well as epigenetics, which is part of mental health. That's how we connect. And we might not know why we connect that way. But you know what? It's amazing when I realize when I feel such a close connection to somebody, usually it comes down to a few things. They've also lost a sibling or a loved one or someone that's very immediate to their life and they're now gone without any closure. 2, they are of the same intergenerational culture, like both Jewish, even if you have nothing in common, you just feel so comfortable around another. Or not always, but sometimes you're both gay or you're both similar minded or both similar culture or sub-minority, which is just life in general. You have a similar sense of member of being the same tribe. Those 3 things are going along with vulnerability, emotional intelligence, emotional sensitivity, and vulnerability, and really willingness to be compassionate and open-minded. Those qualities are what I notice are a thread in the people that are on the podcast as well. And those are reflections of who we are at the deepest core of our being. And Rachel and I and yourself are like that. And so that's what you have to continue reminding yourself. It's a matter of how you're connecting with those people and how they connect to you and building that retention of that small pocket of people, because there's a lot of us out there and we're very underrepresented. And I kind of like that, because when we find each other, it feels like we found the gold mine of what we've been looking for in our journey to that point in our life.
Well said.
No kidding.
A friend of mine who read a book by this woman named Margaret, I don't know her last name, talks about islands of sanity. So we're on an island. We've created an island of sanity. And then the world cracked open this year, and everyone who was insane, I mean, I'm using these words very liberally. Hey, those people, they kind of figured it out over there. Like they're having deep, meaningful, soulful connections on the regular. So they're paddling or coming over to the island of sanity, which is our little island that we've created. And now it's gotten really big. It's no longer Hawaii. It's basically North America. So the island of sanity is now becoming also insane. So.
And that's, it's true.
Yes.
That I think is also kind of, maybe you're saying this already, but people that never had mental health issues or challenges or in their lives that are having them for the first time this year. Whereas, Hero and myself and probably you, Jonas, is like, okay, you want to talk about that? I've been dealing with this for like my whole life. So
right. Sure. But it's like what Hero was saying is like, so the idea to have shared pain, loss, trauma is a bonding mechanism. Yeah. But if you lead with that and you're like, everyone's bringing their emotional baggage with them, like lugging it. That's what you have. You get enough of that at home. You don't want to bring it to the workplace. There's none of that at workplace. Then there's no humanity. So it's really being sensitive and sensing what's required in that moment. That person, like I went to a rave once and I saw in San Bernardino and I saw this young girl not doing well. And I was on my way to the breakdance tent because I love breakdancing, as you probably knew. And so I was like, hold on a second. I was like, are you okay? And she was not okay. And so everything became about like getting her water, getting a paramedic and making sure that she was okay. It wasn't even a question in my mind. Like it was. And I think that that's a human condition.
Correct.
But we're not seeing that type of care. And when people say America is individualistic, that's a big generalization. But the sentiment is we've kind of moved from even the Reagan and Thatcher era to the me generation of me first, and much more individualistic than historically as the collective. So we're looking for ways to be wired to connect. And one of those is to saying, I also have this challenge, as opposed to like, you also have rice or you got some beans. Let's go together and make a fiesta. Like that's the Italian, like, or sometimes the Asian of like, don't worry about it. Like we've got family, we've got food, we've got shelter.
Yep.
So we're hopefully having a breakdown of the old model, or of this. It's a new model of the individualistic impulse, and finding ways to join the collective, whether it's co-working, co-living, Etsy, Schmetzy, Fretzy. I made up those words.
Love it. Yeah.
Fretzy.com. It's Etsy with some Frappuccino.
Yeah. Well, I like it's always like with the shma, with the.
Shma. Okay, so let's do some Yiddish. So Oy vey's mir, everyone knows. That's or just Oy. Nemsve, which I think is actually Russian, is take two. Here's one. So if you're a kibitzer, which we are, you're kibitzing, you like to talk. If you're a schmuck, we know that's like, you're
a dick.
You're a dick. You're being a little bit. You're a yutz, you're also a schmuck, but you're of a different caliber.
Yes, that's
right. You're a putz, you're kind of like a yutz. And my favorite one is Vadel. Don't be a Vadel, which is like the super schmuck.
I've never heard of that one.
Neither have I.
And it sounds like dreidel, so it's easy to remember.
A Vadel. Okay.
I think my dad might have made it up, but I believe it's true. So you're being a Vadel, you're like the ultimate. It's like the lowest of the tadpole. Like being a schmuck would be aspirational, be a move up.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great. But also, I remember my dad actually talking to me about like penis, right? And we joke around and say Schmeckle all the time. But there's Schmeckle, there's Schmegegi, there's like 10 different terms of penis in Yiddish, and they're all slightly different, and they all have different meanings. So I'm like, what is this, Mandarin?
I thought it was just
Schmeckle is probably like one of the best sounding words in the world.
But Schmegegi is like unforgivable, though.
There's Jonathan Safran Foer is a great fictional writer, and he's been trying to keep the Yiddish kite alive because it's being lost. Like very, very few people are speaking Yiddish and so there's almost like a way, like an anthropological way of maintaining these words, which have been integrated into Orthodox Judaism, a lot of Hebrew, but a lot of the words are just gone, and a lot of them are really close to German words.
Yeah. I have this book. Where is? Oh, it's right here. Oh my god! I actually have a book that I don't read books. Fuck books. But anyways, I bought this to look like I'm educated. It's called Dirty Yiddish.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but now I want to read it. So thank you for reminding me. I have it. It's going right there.
Podcast notes so people can get the Dirty Yiddish.
Yeah.
We could do like a Dirty Yiddish Instagram like little video and be like,
oh my god,
and then have like subtitles.
Oh my god, can we please do that? Will you come back and we can do that?
I'd have to spruce up because I thought I had a lot more in me, and I was like coming with it, and I was like, wow, the well is dry.
Oh my god.
That I'm sure like for example, growing up, we didn't really talk about Schmeckle, but my sister and I would try to teach her to say tuchis, like your bum, because we thought it was hilarious. She couldn't say it. She just would say ticklish all the time because she didn't understand it. So tuchis, and then punim. Your face. There's a lot. There's a few.
There's a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Tuchus is, I think, getting quite world renowned, but the
yeah,
Middle East. Anyone in Middle East can say it. Any religion or country, but
totally.
Chukka, Hanukkah.
Right. No, it's true though, but it's like, I have a really good, one of my best friends is from El Salvador, and so therefore speaks fluent Spanish and grew up here, has the rolling of the R of the tongue. I don't have that, but it's very hard for her to do the, but I cannot do that. Like I can't, my tongue just doesn't do that. My tongue is talented, but it can't do that fucking shit. Forget about that. So it's like, wow.
Is this going to be the little micro clip for the episode to be like, we started so good, and we just went like,
yeah.
That could be, right. And then there's a big like add in. Sorry, I hurt your ears.
Now it's like, who are you doing this podcast for? For me, for my own entertainment. I don't care if you are listening or not.
Yes, exactly. And I got to ask this because I know that it's just going to be even more irrelevant the further we go in the conversation. What's your zodiac sign?
Aries.
You're an Aries. I, for some reason, was thinking you were also what you were, because I thought you might have been an Aquarius, because you seem you're fiery, but you're also very airy at the same time.
We're in the age of Aquarius.
You just calling him an airhead? What were you doing?
What? No.
What month is Aquarius in?
It's February, like late January through mid-February, which is what Rachel and I are.
So you're both Aquarius?
We're both Aquarius.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Yes.
Well, we're fire signs. That's right. My mom is Feb 23rd, which is probably actually moving into Pisces or something.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm April 6th, and it's been some qualities of bullheadedness and stubborn.
Yeah.
Free spirit and a fire sign.
Love it.
But I definitely have a lot of energy. Like when I think about myself as a younger guy, I had nervous energy, like frantic, frenetic energy, physical energy, like just had to be doing sports or something all the time, and restless energy, which I guess is pretty much frenetic energy, like, you know, always in motion, like never still.
Yeah,
and
that's how I am.
And so this year has been kind of a gift to be like, okay, so I'm going to go for a walk. Yeah, what's that all about? And finding different modalities, tools, ways to travel without traveling.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's true. Again, I keep forgetting because I'm not a traveler, but so many people are travelers and we rely on that as an escape, and as a way to expand. And I'm like, I actually I have compassion, but I can't relate to that. That's so interesting. And one thing we wanted to ask you, both of us asked, is like, what are you doing right now? Like, what's going on in your life? What's going on? Anything else you want to plug? Whatever
you want to plug.
Tie in. Little schmeckles you want to shove, anything like that. Well, I got the eyebrow raise.
I think only us two or three. Anyone who's listening might actually be able to decode that. Let's see. Okay, so the plug would be, I spent a lot of time thinking about how to bring more of this, and I'm using this purposefully, of like transformational, a little bit of coaching, a little bit of learning into a package. And I just set that up online, and it's called shapers.life is the URL. And there you'll find the program, which is something I wish I had. It's probably the closest I could say would be family systems therapy or group therapy, is something that most people are like, yeah, I'm okay. But the woman that I've been studying with knew my grandmother and said, you know, I think you're going to benefit way more than one-to-one therapy. So I went, and sure enough, I'm sitting in her living room with 50 or 60 other humans, of which 30 are on the team. So they've already been through level 1, 2, and 3, and the immersion of basically what is codependency, which you guys are probably familiar with.
Yep.
People pleasers and codependency. Anyway, so the modality of therapy is often looking back into the past, and the modality of coaching is proactive, like promoting good mental health. So for me, Shapers.life, the program is trying to take what I've learned and package it up in a way that's like accountability buddies, peer coaching, little mini TED Talks to give people support as they navigate their world of work. So that's what I'm most excited about for February 1st. And then anything else, I guess I love meeting new people. So if they want to have a conversation about work or not about work, then they can reach me at my website, which is jonasaltman.com.
Beautiful. And of course, we'll put all that information in the show notes so people can get that. And then what is, just so that, I'll put this in the show notes too, but you're on Instagram as
Shapers.life.
Yes.
That's my, like that has like fun quotes and like has like well-produced photos. And then Jonas Altman has sunsets.
Right. And that's both of those on our
I
Insta?
sent you a message on one. I don't know. Like, it's funny because I back to like how you present yourself online.
Yeah.
At some point I'm going to want to like use social media to promote something or to like have continuity. And so I always used Instagram when I first started using it as like a repository of sunsets and nature. And then slowly I'll like inject like a DJ mix or something. But generally,
I can see that.
life has become like a place where if I'm like, is this business or is this potentially professional? And it's interesting because your comment is like, what's the difference? Why does it matter?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm experimenting, but it's been fun because I had someone help me. She was like, you need to like think about like your strategy. And I was like, I do. And I was like, and she was like, well, what you want to be doing is show that you have continuity. That's important. Like your podcast needs to be coming out, not necessarily new random posts that don't say anything, but regularity and newness. Because as soon as something's like, oh yeah, I remember that, or do you remember this, you're out of people's mind, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's very true.
If you're doing something that I remember I was going to move to Substack. Do you guys know that? It's like a newsletter website, MailChimp.
Yeah.
And like a weekly thing. And I was like, do I have something like unique and interesting to say every week in a newsletter? And I was like, no. So I don't like, and I was like, maybe I could, but it would be like a stretch. So I decided not to, but a lot of friends were saying you should do your newsletter once a week instead of once a month. And I have a friend who was doing it once a week, and she was like, it's so much work to like have a lot of interesting things to say and links to share every week is a lot. And so she stopped and she moved to every month. And I was like, who are you doing it for? Yourself.
Yes, exactly. And that just comes back to, I guess, what's your intention?
What's your intention?
Anything we do behind this podcast, what is your intention?
My intention is to get 36 likes every time I post a sunset in Vancouver. That's my goal.
I think that's very doable.
I'm doing a horror.
I'm liking your sunset right now. And
amazing.
I turn my phone off for you guys because sometimes the phone rings and I'm like, oh, that's embarrassing.
No.
My last podcast, I was on someone else's computer and all of these text messages started coming through.
Oh.
Bing, bing, bing. And it was like, did you get the diapers? I was like, bing. Did you stand at the bus stop? Bing. Did you pick up the kid? I was like, what the
Oh, God.
I apologize to the people. And it created an interesting little shift in the conversation about technology, mindfulness, being present.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you kind of roll with it. But I also found like I was wearing headphones at some point, and for coaching, it's a lot more powerful to have audio only because you're not having to like use mental energy to like be like, is Hero smiling or is he like on Instagram again? Or are you hands or not? But also headphones in terms of like running a lecture or running a workshop creates this sort of cyborg type thing. But for you guys, it probably makes sense for quality. It looks kind of uniform. So I've experimented with not using headphones and just making sure the sound quality is good enough. So
that's right.
It already is inhuman. So
and we experimented like at the beginning, we didn't have any of this. And then we were kind of, you kind of look at what works for other people and what has become successful. And then I'm the one that's been doing all the technical stuff and the editing, post, everything. And I was listening and I was like, no, like your sound sounds very different than my sound. And we have to kind of get on the same page. So
you guys should get juicy headphones so you can have like these bright orange.
Oh my God. That's going to be our first pod swag for sure.
That's a great idea.
Well, I like your headphones right now look like the similar brand, but different color. I don't know if they're
maybe
totally. Mine are Bose.
Oh,
Sony. Yeah, they're totally different. But sure, we'll go with that continuity.
I love that.
Well, I mean, at some point, you guys, I imagine, are going to be in the same room doing this again.
I sure damn hope so. But she lives in Vernon, and I'm still in downtown Vancouver.
Oh.
So
yeah, but but here we'll do some special.
I say that because of the energy in the room would be way different with you two and me on video, and then of course all three of us in the same room.
Oh my God, it would be so amazing.
Exactly.
Are you really wearing these socks? Like seriously?
Oh my God, I love it.
What's wrong with you?
I love
I
it.
actually
And
put on pants for you guys. I was gonna put on jogging pants. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do that.
why did he even put on pants? I mean, just saying.
No, but it was like, I mean, when I lived in London for 12 years. If you wore jogging pants outside, you get shot. Like literally, there was someone there. If you wore track bottoms outside, you were running, or you were on your way to a yoga or workout class.
That's very European in general, though. Like
here, if you put on something smart, it's like, who died?
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, it's so true though. It's so
like,
true.
I'm going on a date, who died? Or like, like, I'm just gonna go get some coffee. And it's like, whoa, okay, Mr. Fancy.
Yeah. And whereabouts generally in the city are you right now? Because you're in Vancouver as well, right?
Oh yeah, now. I'm at the corner, pretty much. I don't know why I'm looking. I know exactly where I am. I'm over at Kingsway and Fraser. I'm at, where Matchstick Coffee is at Kingsway.
Yeah.
I'm a block away from there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
When I moved back to Vancouver, I was like, oh wow, this is like, there's a bit of a vibe here. At one point, there was a co-working space, which is now become a Compass showroom, but and then there's a plant store, and there's an Epicurean bakery.
Yes. It's a great intersection. Intersection.
Vibe, and it's transforming, and like Main Street has already kind of hit its plateau of regeneration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird because like East Van, I lived in Kits for a while, and I found I never left Kits. I just stayed.
Mm-hmm.
I went to
That's what happens.
The Body Energy Club. And
that's what happens.
And I sound very like Ponzi right now.
But I'm surprised though. I mean, I know we're kind of wrapping our convo here, but I taught at Y Yoga for 6 years, and I was a front desk person at Kits and I was a guest experience person at Kits for like a year, and I was part of the Y Yoga community for about 9 to 10 years. So I'm surprised that even if we might have crossed paths, that we didn't cross-reference each other, because that's really interesting. Because I taught tons at Kits, like Hatha, Yin.
When I would leave. When I was like frustrated, or I felt like going to Alma was too far, I started going to Y Yoga, but I only went to Hot.
I figured that was the case, and I only
never really became a disciple. Like I would go to the little steam room,
yes,
come to Hot, and then I'd be gone.
Yes.
But I did like how clean and how clinical and the friendliness there. It definitely. The Y Yoga like Starbucks comparison didn't really sit for the Kits one, but I went to like Yaletown once or a couple other ones, and there did feel to be like there's a bit of a show, and you're like in whatever. They're not franchises, are they? Or they're
not. Well, they are not franchises, but they do. Right before COVID hit, they actually did launch own a Y Yoga actually. Right. So they were starting to do that business model.
Yeah. I'd like to that's a lot of likes. Get back into a physical space for yoga. I'm in no rush.
Well, hey, if you want a private teacher, I'm totally respectful of distancing and COVID procedures, but hey, I'm happy to hook you up with as much yoga and Pilates and stuff as you want. So hit me up. We're not that far apart.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Whoa. Hit me up. I was like, okay, boom.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah.
I'll ask you guys a question. Let's flip the bitch.
Uh-oh.
What? It's December 22nd, which means, according to the Jewish calendar of 5,748 years that we've been on this earth, that's the wrong one. We have 9 days until 2021, right?
Right.
Yep, correct.
So I haven't really thought of this question. Give me your word or a word to manifest, to hold above for this year coming. And I'll give you my
year coming.
Yeah, not this year that's gone, because we know what that word is.
I would say right off the bat, I would say trust.
Nice.
That can be for mostly for myself, like trusting. I mean, this is a whole can of worms that I'm probably going to open, but not necessarily. My anxiety manifests into health anxiety. So I'm always, every little symptom, all those kinds of things, I'm constantly like on the edge, or like trying to protect myself and thinking that I have this or that, or I'm sick, or da 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 da. So just to trust my body, trust what is to come is just going to come, and just be what it's going to be, and trust in many senses of the word, but that's
trust what will be.
Yes.
holding you to it. You're gonna get a check-in on
God, that was part of this,
So Rachel, how's the trust going?
right?
What are you talking about? Who are you?
Amazing.
All right, here you got one.
Yeah, well, I had a few, but the first thing that I came to mind was readiness.
Ooh.
Just being ready for all the stuff that I've cultivated and all the intentions, all the work I've done on myself and others and places that I am to cultivate what it is that I have been working so hard for this year and the years that were before that. And how going into, because I'm turning 29, so like, you know, pushing 30, quote unquote, you know, like these are the formative years of my later adulthood, as far as my perspective is concerned, about, you know, wanting to have a relationship, wanting to find a husband, wanting to find a meaningful partner, wanting to make sure I set up my career path, which I already am doing, but really solidifying it once we get through this whole COVID slump, getting those things in action that I already set in the beginning of this year when I, you know, had my birthday and stuff. So readiness, I think, fulfills all of those different kinds of concepts of personal, professional, and social, and everything in between, all the pillars of my life. If you're ready for it, then it's going to be provided to you.
This is awesome. I'm glad I came up with this question because I was like, oh, cheese ball, but I like it. And it's
We love this kind of stuff.
I did it in 2019 with a friend who I've never met in the real world. So I guess he's a digital friend. He's a friend. He lives in India. He lives in Singapore. And
Nice.
he said, what's your word for 2020, which was clarity. And I didn't get that. I got a big fart fog of cloud. But as you guys are talking, I have 3 words, which really are the same words. So one word is let go, which I know is 2 words. And that's about letting go of having the grasp. So having to do and wanting to work on a Sunday, and the restless soul that I was telling you guys about, of not being able to, back to your transitional anxiety. So working on that, to let go and trust what will be.
Yeah.
So the word actually is home, because I want to feel at home in my own skin, and at home, whether that's Vancouver or Vienna or Victoria.
That's
going to be my word, will be home.
I love it. And the thing that I love asking our guests, in the last couple guests we've had,
teary-eyed. Sorry.
Oh, let the tears out.
I was just thinking it. I had like a bird or a little ant in my eye. Go ahead.
I love it. No, and also like we tend to ask this question, and I know Rachel says maybe we'll switch it up, and you know maybe we will. But I think it's an awesome question. Is if you were to be a kind of juice, what would you be and why?
I think I say a Jew.
Well, you are one, so that would just kind of be redundant, wouldn't it? I think we know what kind of Jew you are, Jonas.
I would not be Larry David, but I would have a juice. Okay.
That's a funny question, though. What you just said.
Okay.
Or guess, like, even if you're not Jewish, what Jew would you be?
Yeah.
I think you'd be Howie Mandel, Rachel.
That's very good. You could be Howie Mandel.
Well, he is funny, so sure. Okay.
He's very
Howie, if you're listening, yeah, we know how you do it. Come on the show. Deal. It's a deal.
Howie
Golden buzzer.
Oh, Jesus.
Sorry, I was having a moment.
Yeah, I want to think about the Jew one. I might have to come back to you on that. I mean, it's probably going to be a dude. I mean, Scarlett Johansson wouldn't be bad if that was the thing that I wanted.
Oh, hells yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like somewhere. I mean, there's the 3 guys that come up that are Jewish are all comedians. There's Larry David, Seinfeld, and Howard Stern. But I don't want to be any of them. Like, I just like elements of their psyche.
Yeah.
And you know, you've got okay. I'm gonna go very easy. Peanut butter chocolate monkey from what's that place called? Body Energy Club.
Yeah.
Only because it's crack cocaine. So I wouldn't mind being that. I know it's a smoothie, but give me some.
That
slack.
works.
Yes.
And I just gonna say that because that's like the best drink. And Blueberry Thrill is pretty good too. So.
But you know what's great though, when you talk about the peanut butter, is that if I wanted to kiss you, boom, that's the kryptonite, because I'm anaphylactic to peanuts. So if you want to avoid that kind of onslaught, then you are perfect. It's like, nope, I've had my smoothie. I'm like, okay, we will stay more than 6 feet apart.
Yeah, well, nuts can do that for a lot of people. So
Yeah,
and also,
exactly.
you know what's the secret in that one is dates, which I don't really like dates by themselves, but they're so sweet. So you're getting like natural sweetness.
Dates are great.
Okay, do you guys answer that question, or is that just me that answers that?
Just you.
Just you.
You already flipped it on us, so we're done.
Yeah, I already flipped it on you. Yeah, good question. So that's my juicy drink.
I love it. Thank you. Like, seriously, this was more than I could have ever anticipated and asked for it to encounter you and to learn about you. And yeah, and I'll hit you up. I'll send you my information to help connect you through all the other stuff as well.
This has been a blast. Happy Tuesday.
Thank you so much. You as well. Enjoy the sunshine, man. This is gorgeous. We got in Vancouver.
It's gonna be a good one. We've had a lot of rain, so
we have. Yeah.
Nice too. I think we're gonna go snowshoeing.
Exactly.
I think we're gonna go snowshoeing.
Oh.
It's beautiful. It's blue sky. We had a bit of snow last night in Vernon, and it's probably go up to Silver Star.
Post a photo of your snowshoeing on the internet.
Oh, I will on the interwebs. But Jonas, again, like Hero, I'm just going to mirror what Hero just said. This has been more than I could have expected as well. I can't believe this conversation. Actually, you know what, Jonas? This could be the longest conversation we've had with anyone.
I had to pee in my pants twice. So yes.
Amazing. What great retention.
Cantor Nixon. I don't know. What do you call it? Catheter?
Catheter.
Thank you.
I don't know if to cancer your urine. That's pretty gross, but.
Oh, how about this? A moil. That's the person that snips the Schmeckle. And I said to my friend, I'm like, wouldn't that be a bad job? He's like, yeah, it's pretty easy. I'm like, no. If you have one motion and you cut wrong, it's not going to go well. He's like, my dad had a friend who was a moil. He said it was very easy. And I was like, I'm not so sure about that. I got to do some research on that. Like moils who've been disbarred or fired. Like, it's a big deal.
That's so true.
Give the baby a little bit of wine so the baby's drunk, but the baby's going to find out if you fucked up the.
No.
Coming up on Canadian Jewish Horror Story.
Yes.
In the news today.
Oh God.
Your Schmeckle and Jew.
Yeah, Rachel, you're on your final countdown. I basically didn't want this to end. Oh yeah, we're saying you've talked longer than any other person on our show. I have to go. I have snowshoeing and my taxes, and the Pope is waiting outside to interview me.
Oh, I could talk to you all day, Mister. That's for sure.
No, this is this is amazing. See, this is why we do this, and this is why I love the unscripted dialogue with people that hopefully can do what you do, and we just banter.
You guys could do. I think you've been doing some Instagram videos. Do a little short Instagram live.
Yes.
We were doing those for Hanukkah, and then it just got like, we're like, oh fuck, it's the 8th. It's 8 nights. That's to get this. Like, what the hell do we?
Good idea. Yeah, I don't know. I've done a few Instagram lives, and I get like 7 people that come on. I'm like, hey, Bram, hey, Snoop, and then after it goes live, I guess Instagram live they're really trying to push the video, so it gets out there. So I don't know who those people are. Like, back to our point, I don't really care who they are, but they are watching it, so hopefully they're benefiting.
Absolutely. I think we definitely were going to do some more Instagram lives, and especially for topics or certain things that might only be like 15 minutes, but we want to get it off of our chest. It saves that kind of process as well. So I think, Rachel, you and I will definitely do some more of those. And
like what we're doing now, I don't know, I guess you guys will edit it or upload it. The Instagram live, the moment you finish it, even though you can save it and edit it, which I've done once because I messed it up, it goes live. It's live and then it's live. So there's a little bit of this like, it's kind of for me, it's a little bit messy. So it's messy and therefore it's authentic.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I was just saying to Hero, like last night, I didn't name the person's name, but I was watching someone who is a little bit more in the spotlight than we are, let's just say. And they were doing an Instagram live, and luckily he was doing like a kind of skit comedy for charity. But because like he's not used to the technical stuff, it kept fucking conking out, and it kept pausing and then turning on and off and blah, 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 blah. So that authenticity and was pretty cool to see, actually, for somebody who is on a bit of a higher pedestal, so to speak. And that's all.
It's like everyone has to go to the bathroom, everyone's going to die, and I think everyone has to pay their taxes.
Yeah.
So that, and everyone has Instagram problems because Instagram has bandwidth issues or whatever. So, but yeah, I've loved being here. Thank you for generous questions and for asking me what my favorite smoothie is.
Yay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. I can't wait to continue this conversation with you.
Me too. And then I will email you with the link. And once we've completed all this, and hopefully we'll get it out to everyone. What is today? Tuesday? By Thursday. So
yeah.
Well, like a Christmas Eve gift.
Woo!
From the Jews.
You want to stay at home and learn Yiddish that's gone dated? Do you want to go into a deep journey of the soul and talk about yoga and how it taints you because they're trying to commercialize it? Do you want to be your best self at work? Then you should listen to getjuicy.com.org.net live right now.
Okay, you know what?
Exactly. And don't forget that damn Chinese food, because damn do we need those
carbs. That's people. What do you do on Christmas? I'm like, well, see, I don't celebrate Christmas, and there's nothing open except for the highest MSG quotient Chinese restaurants in Vancouver. And then I watch every episode of Breaking Bad or whatever Netflix thing is. Breaking Bad. I don't even know what I'm watching.
Yes.
Ozark. Something.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Oh my God. Okay. We'll see you
so
soon.
Great to meet you.
Back on because
it's been fun. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See ya.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay. See ya.